A very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning and good evening, depending on wherever you are. My name is Ashfaq, and today I'm going to discuss a brief on Salesforce, and then we'll go ahead and discuss the Salesforce interview questions, which are very frequently asked in Salesforce interviews. Okay. To introduce about myself, I'm having around 11 years of experience as a Salesforce senior consultant and architect, which includes around 8 years of experience in Salesforce.com CRM platform and contributing on technical articles, learning new programming languages, frameworks, and sharing knowledge with others is one of my hobby. Okay, and I'm Salesforce certified professionals having 3 Salesforce certifications. That is Salesforce Admin, Salesforce Developer, and Salesforce Advanced Developer certifications. Okay. So I kind of worked on every type of Salesforce project, being it Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Custom Cloud, which is nothing but Force.com platform. Okay. And apart from that, I have a lot of experience in online training, as well as I have taken thousands of interviews. I used to take interview on a daily basis. So based on experience, what I have in taking the interview and how students used to answer the interview questions and what is the best way to answer a particular questions, that all we will be discussing in our session today. Okay. So let me start with the introduction to Salesforce. So Salesforce is nothing but CRM. It's a customer relationship management system. Initially, Salesforce was started in the year 1999 by Mark Benioff, who is the CEO of Salesforce right now. Okay. Before opening CEO or before starting Salesforce, he was the executive employee of Oracle. Executive employments. He's in one of the top level employees in Oracle. So he thought of doing something different. Okay, like in the year 1999, we all know, right? We used to have SAP and Oracle, which is booming that time. Okay, but the problem what he sees in Oracle and SAP or any other software that time, so we have to install that software in a particular system, and then only we will be able to use it, right? So today I am using it from my laptop, and tomorrow I want to use the same thing what I'm doing from my laptop or desktop from any other system, then I may not be able to do it, right? Or for example, late in the night I realize that I have to do something, and if I want to do, I have to go to my office and then do those things. Okay, unless I have a VPN connection and I'm connected to that system or I'm connected to that server. Okay, so taking these issues into consideration, what Mark Benioff thought is, let me do something wherein we should not have dependency on software installation. Okay, I'm not sure you people might have seen or not, but the initial logo of Salesforce was like, we have Salesforce and then no parking kind of this thing will be there. So like no software was the intention Mark Benioff was having before starting this Salesforce company. Okay. So he started with CRM, which is having Sales Cloud as well as the Service Cloud. So Sales Cloud deals with all, like, starting from the lead, and then once we get the lead, and then we'll speak with the customer, and then it goes to, conversion of that lead, and then opportunity will be created, and then we'll finally sell that product. Okay. Once we sell that product, what happens is we'll have to again support that product. Then we'll go for support of that product, right? What happens, let's say for example, you are purchased Dell laptop, right? Once you have purchased, so until and unless you purchase, that is all a sales life cycle. The person from the company will call you, he'll follow up with you. Okay, he'll try to convince you to purchase the product. Okay, generally it doesn't happens in terms of Dell, because it's a branded company and they always have very good laptops, and most of the customers who reach out to Dell, they already plan to purchase the laptop. Okay, so sales team there doesn't have to do much. Yeah, but it's a similar scenario for any other company. Okay, be it selling computer selling laptop selling companies or any product selling companies. Okay, they will use this Sales Cloud for working with the clients and getting them converted to opportunities and finally selling the product to them. Okay, this all deals in the Sales Cloud of Salesforce CRM. And after that we have something called a Service Cloud. Okay, Service Cloud is nothing but from the day you have purchased the laptop, your Service Cloud interaction will start. Let's say, for example, immediately after 2 days of purchasing of your laptop is not working, or maybe the particular software which you intended to install is not getting installed because of some reason, right? Or maybe your laptop is behaving weird, like restarting continuously. So all those things, issues, you have to report it, right? So that all those things can be reported with the help of Service Cloud module. Okay. So this is all about Service Cloud. So Mark Benioff started this Sales Cloud and Service Cloud initially. And then see, it was in the year back in 1999. That time we don't have a boom of cloud, right? But you might be listening this boom of cloud since past maybe 5 to 6 years, okay? And maybe 3 to 4 years it was a little more boom, okay, than before. The reason being is, see, cloud is not the new thing. It's really old, okay? If I want to give you an example how old cloud is, I would definitely give you an example of email, okay? Since how long you are email, who you are using emails, right? So I think I am using email from the year 2000 at least, okay? 2000, 2001, I've got my first email ID. See, since it was, the cloud is so old, like it was from 2000, 2001 only, okay? But that time only few companies were there. Think about cloud, okay? That time, only email was there and a few more things were there in cloud. But why the boom is there since very recently? Because nowadays what is happening is all the enterprise companies have started using the cloud because of its lot of advantages, okay? Cloud does have a lot of advantages because you don't have to worry about the infrastructure, you don't have to worry about the platform, even in some cases you don't have to worry about the softwares, okay? The cloud computing company whom you have taken the services will take care of everything, okay? You concentrate on your core business, okay? Let's say for example Edureka, okay? So Edureka business is more about training, so they don't have to worry about developing the software, and they won't have to worry about developing a software for supporting the people and all those things. Or maybe take an example of banking, right? They don't have to worry about concentrating and developing software, or they don't have to worry about managing the servers and all those things. So if they go towards this direction, then they may not be able to concentrate very well on their core business, right? What is the core business? Core business is your, for example, Edureka education is a core business. So they should concentrate more on, how the new courses can be introduced, or what are the best courses which can be given to the students as per current market, or how can we modify the course content and give best to the students. Okay, there they can spend a lot of time. But for banking, the core thing is, giving a lot of financial facilities to the customers, okay? But developing an IT, or having an IT center, or supporting the servers and all those things is not their core business, right? Yes, people did for a couple of years, because that time we didn't have a lot of this clouds at that time. But now, once they've realized that, okay, these are all the benefits we get from cloud, okay? And also the one more benefit of cloud is we don't have to, or the companies don't have to invest a lot upfront, right? For example, let's say example of Edureka only, just take if they wanted to get something on cloud, they don't have to have their infrastructure of their own, okay? What they can do is they will find out which is the best cloud companies, okay? And then they can simply go and take the licenses per user per month, okay? And then as soon as they pay the money for those licenses, they can start getting the services of that cloud, okay? So these are the benefits of cloud. That is the reason, why we have a lot of jobs here in the market for Salesforce, okay? Because Salesforce is on top of cloud. I can say that Salesforce is having cloud architecture, okay, behind the scene, okay? So that is the reason Salesforce is having huge demand in the market right now. Salesforce interview question and answer. The very first question is, before even going to this first question, I would say that the prerequisite for this session would be better to have, if you have already done Salesforce admin or app builder course, that is well and good. But if you have not done that, then also you can have a look. You will just get a glance of, what all is available in Salesforce. And then maybe in future you can pursue your Salesforce admin or app builder course, okay? So to start with the very first question, can two users have the same profile? Okay. And can two profile be assigned to the same user? So these are the two different questions. Let me start with the first question. Can two users have the same profile? So what happens is in Salesforce, there is a concept of profile. Okay. So everything in Salesforce is derived by the profile. Means your access to our complete Salesforce is derived by profile. Let's say, for example, you are from sales background, okay, and you are from a sales team. And in our company, I'm using Salesforce for sales, service, and marketing, right? So giving access of service and marketing to you doesn't make any sense, right? And I want you to have only sales access. So what I can do is I can use my profile, and I can give the profile name as sales manager or whatever it may be, sales executive. And then I can give you only the required applications or required tabs or required objects which is needed to you for your day-to-day business as a sales manager. Okay, I will not give you the access for the whole system. Okay, so all those access can be controlled with the help of our profile. So now the question is, can two users have the same profile? Now think about it. Even you can answer this one, right? Can two-person have same profile? Yes, in our company we can have more than one sales manager, right? So one sales manager will have the same access and another sales manager will also have the same access. So to answer this, I will also get the answer in my PPT. So yes, one profile can be assigned to any number of users, but he should be for the same purpose. You cannot assign the same profile like sales manager profile to the marketing guy, right? You should be very careful. So can two profile be assigned to the same users? Okay, the answer is no. Okay. For example, think I have created one profile as a sales manager, another profile as a marketing manager. One person cannot be a sales manager, and we cannot assign a profile of sales manager and marketing manager to the same person. Okay. Obviously, sometimes, we have scenarios like in a smaller companies, one person only be a sales manager as well as the marketing manager. Okay. That time we have to create a separate profile wherein we will give an access for both the things like sales and marketing, and then we can assign that profile. But always one person can have only one profile. Cool. Okay, let us move on to the next question. What are governor limits? Actually, governor limits, to give you a little more background before discussing the governor limits, Salesforce is on cloud, right? I have just given a brief introduction to you. Like Salesforce is on cloud, right? What do you mean by cloud? Cloud means, your complete applications, whatever is developed by that company, will be hosted on a server, okay? And multiple different companies can access that. Okay, let's say for example I am from Edureka. I have taken the licenses for Salesforce, right? And maybe some other company, let's say for example ICICI Bank, they have taken again licenses for Salesforce. Everybody is connecting to the same server. Okay, so basically someone is asking me a question. It is related to apex limits. Just hold on for one more minute. Okay, you will get your answer. So basically, yes, Salesforce is a multi-tenant architecture. Multi-tenant is one server is being used by multiple different companies. Okay. Let's say, for example, I'll give you an best example between banks. ICICI Bank, right? Think about ICICI banks and think about Vijaya Bank, a local bank, one local bank and another ICICI Bank. So what happens is, obviously, if you think about it, ICICI Bank will have a lot of customers than Vijaya Bank, right? So what ICICI Bank will do is they do a lot of transactions. They try to consume lot of resources of Salesforce. Okay, whereas Vijay Bank does have very little customer base and they may not utilize that much of bandwidth or that much of resources. Okay, so what Salesforce did is they said that okay, everyone, whoever is taking the licenses, they cannot go beyond this limit. Okay, if they go beyond this limit, so and so limit, then other tenants who are also using the resources may not be able to consume the resources whenever they want, right? Think about apartment, right? It's very good example is an apartment. Okay, so for example there are 10 flats in an apartment and one person is consuming the whole water in from your overhead tank, right? Then other tenants may not be able to get the same amount of water. So they said it's like governor limits, like okay, one person can take only 100 liters of water per day. Okay, so likewise Salesforce has also enforced some governor limits. Okay, you cannot go beyond that limits. So that is nothing but governor limits in Salesforce. Let's see what it talks about governor limits. See, it has given a multi-tenant architecture diagram. Okay, here we have servers and it will be used by client A, client B, and client C, right? Like let's say for example ICICI Bank or Vijaya Bank and HDFC Bank. Okay, so Salesforce work on the concept of multi-tenant architecture where the resources are shared across multiple clients, right? To make sure no one client monopolize the shared resources, Apex runtime engine strictly enforce governor limits. Okay, so as far as you're doing all admin work, Salesforce has taken care it by default automatically. But yes, when you're doing for more customizations, like you're writing your own code, when you're writing the SOQL, SOQL is nothing but SQL in Salesforce. Okay, it's related to SQL. So if you're writing some SQL queries in Salesforce, then you have to be in some limits. Okay, you cannot go beyond that limits. So that is where govern limits comes into picture. If your Apex code ever exceeds that limit, then expected governor issues a runtime exception that cannot be handled. Okay, So one more interview questions comes out of it. Let's say, for example, if your interviewer has asked you this question, okay, I have got governor limits in my code, okay, is it possible to handle that governor limit? Okay, can I use exception handling like try catch throw, and can I try to handle that governor limits? So the answer is absolutely no. Okay, even though you use this try catch throw, but you cannot handle that governor limits error. So what is the solution for that, right? Next question is, what will be the solution for that? So the solution is, you have to optimize your code in such a way that you are not exceeding the governor limits. Cool. So the last point is, hence, as a Salesforce developer, you have to be very careful while developing your application. This question is more relevant to the developers who are going after admin. They will go ahead with the development and they'll concentrate more on coding part. So this is more relevant and important for them. You have to be really careful how you have to write a code in Salesforce. You cannot blindly, for example, people coming from other backgrounds, like if you are coming from a Java background, or if you're coming from a .NET background or PHP, so what happens is, you don't take care of the way Salesforce write the code. Okay, you write the code in your own way, because Apex is a programming language which is very much similar to Java or .NET, right? So you tend to write the program how do you write in your Java and .NET, but that won't work over here. Even though syntax is same, but there is a way how you write the question, how you write the code in Salesforce. Cool. Okay, let us move on and go to our next question. If you have any question, or if you have any doubt on particular question, before I move on, just let me know using the question window. I will try to take up your question if it is related to that question. Okay. So next question is, what is a sandbox org, and what are the different types of sandboxes in Salesforce? Okay. To answer this question, I would first tell you what happens in a real time. Okay. So in a real time, normally, typical, I'll tell you a minimum, bare minimum thing what happens in any development environment is, we have a development org where the developers used to develop the application, and we have the QA or testing org. Okay, server we used to call in other languages, but here in Salesforce, so we call it as org. Okay, there is a org is a terminology we call for organization, we call it as org. Okay, and finally, once the testing is done, the complete code will go to production, right? This is a typical environment. So here, what is a sandbox? So anything apart from production is a sandbox. Okay, your developer org is a sandbox, your testing org is a sandbox, and your production org is a production. It's not a sandbox. Anything before production is a sandbox. So we will have a separate orgs for that. Okay, even to log in into production and log in into sandbox, there is a separate URL also. Okay, many people doesn't know this one. Okay, because while having the Salesforce training, you will not come across a scenario where you log in into Sandbox. So because Salesforce provide us a free developer org, so we use that free developer org, and then we will be practicing, or we will be doing our programs in that only. But what happens is, when you go to real time, you will not directly work on production. Rather, you will work on your sandboxes. So what is the URL for login into Salesforce? If you have already done this course, then you know that it's login.salesforce.com. Okay, but when you have to log into sandboxes, then the URL will be test.salesforce.com. Just remember that, test.salesforce.com. Okay, so a sandbox is a copy of a production environment or org used for testing and development purpose. Cool. And it is useful because it allows development on Apex programming without disturbing the production environment. Think about it. Okay, think about Flipkart, right? If there is any issue comes in Flipkart, or if they want to do any enhancement, they will not directly do into the production environment. Why? Because thousands of millions of users are using that www.flipkart.com, right? What they will do is, they will have a replica of the same site in any other server or any other org. They will do the changes there first. They'll do the thorough testing, and then they will move the changes by taking some window. Okay, sometimes we'll say, okay, from so and so time, like Sunday, from 12 hours to 12:30 hours, we will not be, this site will be under construction or under maintenance, right? So that window, we will move all our changes from the sandbox org to our production org. Okay, it's useful because it allows development on Apex programming without disturbing. That is what I'm trying to explain here. The types of sandboxes are developer sandbox, developer pro sandbox, partial copy sandbox, and full sandbox. Actually, there are a couple of difference between them. So maybe, we can store very less data in developer and developer pro, and partial copy is, we will have also partial data from the production, and full copy is exactly the replica of production. If you want to check how this functionality will behave in my production org, then best way is to test in full copy sandbox. So these are the sandboxes provided to us by Salesforce. Okay. So will this have some same data limits? That's what I told Zishan here. So the data is different. Okay, we will not have full data in developer and developer pro as well as a partial copy. But in full sandbox, we'll have full data. But apart from full data, we don't have a lot of data, or we have, yes, we have a restriction for the data on this rest of the sandboxes. Okay, hope I have answered your question. So let us move on to the next question. Can you edit an Apex trigger or Apex class in production? Okay. And another question is, can you edit a Visualforce page in a production environment? So to answer this, first one is no. You cannot edit any Apex class or Apex trigger in the production environment. But yes, you can do some changes for the Visualforce page in production. But always it is advisable not to do any changes directly in the production. Always, this is the best practice. Okay. If you have to do also, you have to first do it in the lower environments like in developer or a testing org, and then go for the production. Okay. If it is a burning issue, like we are about to miss the SLA, if you do not fix that problem in so and so stipulated time, then only do it. But apart from that, please do not touch the production environment. Okay. So to answer this question, no, it is not possible to edit Apex classes and triggers directly on the production environment, right? And it can be done only on developer edition and sandboxes. So in developer edition and sandbox, we can directly go ahead and update the changes. Okay. To deploy it in production, a user with Apex author limits must deploy the triggers and classes using the deployment tools. We have a couple of deployment tools. I think that question we will be discussing in future, like, yeah, change set and force.com ID and so on. Okay. So using those deployment tools, we can change in the sandboxes and we can deploy it. Okay. However, Visualforce pages can be created and edited in both sandboxes and production. Cool. Only if the page has to do something unique. Okay. So this is the condition. Don't do unless you have something unique, which should be there only for production. Maybe some unique ID which is available only in production, then only do it. Otherwise, don't do it. Okay. It would have to be developed via sandbox only. The best practice is to develop via sandbox only. Okay. Going to the next question. What are the different data types that a standard field record name can have? Okay, let me give you a little more background before I explain you this question. What happens is whenever we create object is nothing but a table in Salesforce, right? So whenever we create an object, automatically, we have to give an information to create one field at least. Okay, without creation of that one field, we will not be able to proceed further. Okay. So that is nothing but the standard name field. Automatically, it will get the name as name only. Okay. So we have to provide that data type for that. Okay. So in Salesforce, what are the two data types which we can give for that record name field is either auto number or a text field. Okay. So standard field records names can have data type of either auto number or a text field with a limit of 80 characters. Auto number is what? Automatically, for example, you want to give create an automatic field for roll number, right? So you can give like RNO hyphen 00000, and if you give starting point as 1, then automatically it will create RNO 001, RNO 002, RNO 003 as and when we start creating the records. Okay. And text field will be a unique field. Whenever we are creating this as a text field, we have to make sure that that field does not takes the duplicates. Okay. For example, we have got a scenario, it can take a duplicate value, then you should never create this text field as the data type for that record name field. Okay. Maximum go with auto numbers field. And the limitation for this one is 80 characters. Cool. Okay. So why are Visualforce pages served from a different domain? Okay, let me show you this one example. Even if I explain this, you will not understand. So let me explain this by showing you one Visualforce page. Okay. I'm not sure if I have a Visualforce page over here. Let me check if I have Visualforce page. If you have already done, I hope you know this is a Salesforce ID which I have logged in. Okay, Visualforce page. Okay, we have a couple of Visualforce page, but let me open one. If you could see this, this is my URL for ap4.salesforce.com. But when I open a Visualforce page, see the difference. What it has done, it has changed that c.ap4.visual.force.com. Okay, so this question is more related to that only. Okay, so why are Visualforce page served from a different domain? Okay, the domain is changed as soon as I start opening my Visualforce page. Okay, so the reason is this one: Visualforce page are served from a different domain to improve the security standards and block cross-site scripting, because people or the hackers try to hack to avoid them from hacking the sites. Okay, so Salesforce always opens the Visualforce page from the different domain name. Okay, this is the answer for that. So the next question is what is who ID and what ID in activities. Actually, this is there in activities. Okay, if you could open the activities fields, you will see who ID and what ID there. So what is the difference between who ID and what ID? Okay, so anything refers to the people, right? Typically it can be a contact, okay, or a lead. Okay, example, lead ID and contact ID is nothing but referred to as who IDs. Okay, and what ID is refers to as objects. Example, account. Okay, it is related to account, or it is related to opportunity, or it is related to something else, or it is related to my, what should I say, codes. It is related to something else, then it is nothing but the what ID. But who ID refers to the people. Typically it will be a contact or else the lead. Okay, let us move on to the next question. What is the use of writing sharing rules? Can you use sharing rules to restrict the data access? Okay, this is a really good question and also an important interview question here. Okay, before even giving the answer to this one, let me explain you what is actually a sharing rule. Okay, in Salesforce there are two type of security. Okay, one security is providing you the access of the org. It will determine whether you should have access to the sales application, whether you should have access to the marketing application, or whether you should have access to the service application, right? This is all about accessing. How do you access that? That is controlled by profile. Okay, but there is some other thing, other security in Salesforce. There are two types of security in Salesforce. Okay, if you have faced this interview, just you can elaborate that Salesforce does have two types of security. One is all about access, and second is all about the visibility of data, right? Visibility of data. So what do you mean by visibility of data? Let's say, for example, I am having 100 records. As per your role, or as per your designation, I can say, okay, designation is related to your role. So as per your role, you are supposed to see only 10 records. Okay, rest of the 90 records you are not supposed to see. That can also be set up in Salesforce using something called as OWD, that is organization wide default. Okay, so if our organization wide default is private, only you can see your records, like who you are the owner of that record, then you will be able to see, and your manager can see, but the rest of them cannot see your records. Okay, so with OWD we will restrict the record visibility, but with the help of sharing rule we can open the restrictions. Okay, let's say, for example, I want I'm team sitting in India, and there is one other team sitting in USA and another team sitting in Australia, right? But from team who is having the record ownership, I want that records to be visible to the US team also, because my complete business is driven from US. So I want, share my records which is getting generated in India to be visible to the folks sitting in US also. So I can open up the data visibility with the help of sharing rule. Okay, can we see the answer? So by default, all users in your organization will have OWD default sharing settings to either public read only or private, right? To give access to more records which users do not own, we write sharing rules. Okay, like people in US do not have the access to my records, right? I can give the access to them using the sharing rule. Okay, example, sharing rules are used to extend the sharing access to users in public group or roles. Let's say, for example, I want to give access to all the sales manager in sitting in the US, right? Sales manager, let's say, for example, it's a role, right? So I can, once I give it to the role, then all sales manager in the US can see my data, right? Hence, sharing rules are not as strict as organization-wide default. The strictest thing in Salesforce is organization-wide default only, okay? But with the sharing rule, we can open up that strictness, okay? We can open the visibility of the data to the other folks in our org or organization. They allow greater access to the other users. To answer the second question, no, we cannot use sharing rule to restrict data. So to restrict data, we should use organization-wide default. But to open up the data, we should use sharing rule. Okay, it is used for allowing greater access to the records. Cool. So sharing rule is all about the opening access to the records to the different set of groups, or maybe different one or two people also, or even one person also. If you want to open up the record visibility of me to one person, let's say for example, I'm into a sales team in Edureka, right? And I have got 10 leads where I have to work for those 10 leads, okay? And suddenly I have to go for a vacation, emergency vacation. And what I can do is I can share whatever data is visible to me with one of the colleague who will be my backup for me for that 1 week, okay? I'll open up the visibility to him, and then he can see, and he can even edit if it is having read write access, and then he can work on those leads. Okay, so basically it can be given to even one person or to the set of groups, or we can give it to the set of roles as well. Okay, so next question is, what are the different types of email templates that can be created in Salesforce? This is the simplest answer. There are 4 types of these things. Okay, one is text, second is HTML with letterhead, and third one is custom HTML, and the fourth one is Visualforce page. For the last one, you need to have a developer to do this. Only administrators and developers can create this template. Advanced functionalities like merging data from multiple records is available only in this template, right? And the simplest of all is the text one. All users can create or change this template. Okay, even the users can do the changes to this one, but these two are very much same, with the only difference that here it will give us an option to provide the letterhead like our logo at the top, as well as a logo at the bottom, or whatever maybe address at the bottom, and this will be without letterhead. Okay, but both are same. Okay, only administrators, users having edit HTML template permission can create this template based on a letterhead, and administrators and users having edit HTML templates permission can create this template without the need of a letterhead. If you do not have a letterhead, then if you don't want also the letterhead, you can go for the third one. Cool. So this is the simplest one. Next one is, what is a bucket field in reports? This question belongs to reports and dashboards module in Salesforce. So we have a field where we have a special field in Salesforce reports called bucket field. Okay. See, think about bucket. Bucket means, what we'll do in normal bucket, will add water, right? So similarly, here we add multiple things together and we'll make it as a bucket, one bucket. Okay. So that is nothing but a bucket. I'll give you an example. There could be 3 types of bucket. Okay. One is a numeric bucket. Okay. Another is a text bucket, and the third one is for pick list value buckets. Okay, let's say for example I have field called industry, right? Industry can be anything, like it can be a technology industry, it can be a banking, it can be insurance, it can be a financial, or it can be mortgage, or it can be anything. In technology it can be communication, it can be high tech, it can be anything else. So for example, I want to just have 2 labels. One is technology and another is financial. So what I can do, I can group all this banking, insurance, financials into one bucket called financial. I can group telecommunication, technology, and biotechnology, all those things to one group called technology. So with the help of this bucket field, we can basically bucket the fields into different buckets. Okay, bucketing lets you quickly categorize report records without creating a formula or a custom fields within Salesforce. You don't have to explicitly create a field to bucket that. Okay, on the fly on a report we can do the bucketing. They can be used to group, filter, or arrange report data, right? It can be done only on reports data. When you create a bucket field, you need to define multiple categories like buckets. that are used to group. Just now I have given you an example, like financial bucket is one bucket where where I can put the industry called financials, I can put the industry called banking and insurance and mortgage and whatnot, right? And loans or whatnot. Okay. And then earlier we had to create custom fields to group or segment certain data. Sometime back, okay, little long time back, we don't have this option to create a bucket field. That time what we used to do, we used to create a separate fields and then we will group whatever, if this is so and so and so value, then just give a name it as a bucket, something like that we used to do. Okay. But now Salesforce has introduced something called as bucket. Okay. What is next? Next is what are dynamic dashboards, and can dynamic dashboards be scheduled? Okay. Actually, what is a static dashboard? Okay, if you want to learn what is dynamic dashboard, then we should know what is static dashboard. Okay. Actually, dashboard which will show the data we have just learned. Okay, sometime back we have just learned that every user will have his data visibility, right? That all users cannot see all data. If you know that concept, and it will be easy for you to understand this concept, right? So for example, I am as a sales executive, what data I can see. Okay. And as a sales manager, what data I can see. And as a sales senior manager, what data I can see. As a CEO, what data I can see. Okay. So similarly, that is defined in our OWD and our data visibility, like sharing rules and all those things. Similarly, that the same things whatever we have done configuration for OWD will be reflecting in our reports. It's not like, if I'm opening the record, then it is not visible if it is OWD is set. But if I open all the data, it will be visible. No. Okay. Whatever the setting you have done for your OWD, it will be reflecting in our whole org, whether it will be a reports, whether it will be a dashboard, whether it will be our individual records, right? So now dynamic dashboards are used to display information tailored to a specific user. For example, I've logged in as an administrator and I want to see that this sales executive, if he opens this report, then how he will be able to see this report. Okay. I can quickly show this view so that you will understand a little better. Okay. Let me go back over here. And I'm not sure if I have some reports. Let me see if I have some reports. I can show you the report. Dynamic dashboard, right? We were talking about dashboard. Let's see about dashboard. Okay, edit this one. See, if you could see by default, what it is showing, viewing as this person, right? It is static, means I cannot do the changes. Always when I open the dashboard, it will be visible viewing as this person only. But I want to make it dynamic. Let's say, for example, my manager want to see how other users can see this report. So what we can do, we can make it as a dynamic only also. View report as here. Okay. Run as login. Let authorize a user to change a running user. Click on OK and then save it. So what happens is now the view will get changed to something else. Now see, it is not static, right? I have an option. Now I can give and say that, okay, I want to use it as Professor CSC. Okay, how CSC professor can see my data automatically on the fly. Salesforce will calculate and Salesforce will show you how and what are the data is visible to my CSC professor. Okay, see, Salesforce professor is able to see only CSC records. That is why he is not able to see the other records. Cool, understood, right? Now I will write mechanical professor, MECH professor, and see what happens. So mechanical professor, he can see mechanical, and also while I think I have given him access to CSC professor's data as well. That is why he is able to see both the details. Cool. Okay, let us go ahead and see what else is saying. Dynamic dashboard is nothing but used to display information tailored to a specific users, while normal dashboard shows data only from a single user's perspective. Okay. You can use dynamic dashboards when you want to show each user specific data, such as their personal quotas and sales, or number of cases closures by them, okay, or leads converted, etc. Right? You can also use a normal dashboards when you want to show regional or organization-wide data to set of users, such as regional sales or support teams performance on case closures. Based on our different requirements, we can either provide him that static report, or as well as we can give him access to the dynamic dashboards also. Okay. So can dynamic dashboards be scheduled? No, we cannot schedule a dynamic dashboards. Okay, whenever we open, that time only it will show us the data online. There's nothing we can schedule it. Cool. Okay, moving on to the next question. What are the different types of reports available in Salesforce, and can we mass delete reports in Salesforce? This is also one of the simple questions I would say. So there are total 4 types of reports in Salesforce. That is nothing but the tabular report, summary report, matrix report, and joint reports. Okay. So I want to give you a little more background on these types of reports where an interview question can be twisted. For example, for developing or for creating a dashboard, we first have to create a report. Okay. And the data source for the dashboard will be a report only. Okay. We'll just generate a report, and while creating the dashboard, it will ask you to give the data source, and we have to provide one report as a data source. Then automatically dashboards will be created, right? So here the twisted interview question is, which reports cannot be used for a dashboard as a data source? So the answer is tabular reports cannot be used as a source for the dashboards, and you cannot use even joint reports as the source of dashboards. Only these 2 reports can be used as a source of dashboards. Okay. So what is a tabular report? It's a simple columns we have. Like for example, I want to have the list of students, or I want to have the list of employees. Then simple our tabular reports can be used. Simple Excel type of table which provides a list of items with a grand total. That's it. Okay. But summary reports is a little extended one. Okay. Similar to the tabular reports, but also have the functionality of grouping rows, views, subtotals, and creating the charts. Okay. And matrix is like 2-dimension. Left hand side also will have columns, and at the top also will have a columns. It's like a matrix. Okay. It's 2-dimensional reports which allows you to group records both by rows and column. Okay. And joined reports, for example, if I have multiple different objects and I want to see the report at only one place, so I can join multiple reports. Okay, multiple blocks shows the data from different report based on the same or different report types. I think I have this report. Let me quickly show you for your understanding. All these 3 reports are just the normal reports, but the third one I want to show you. Let me see if I have that report. If I have, I will show you quickly. Okay. Let me go back to reports. Okay, close it. Just want to show you how this report looks like. It's easy for you to visualize. My personal folder, student tabular, summary, matrix. Okay. I think this should be the one. I have written matrix, but this is not matrix. Okay. This is a tabular only. Yes, this is the one. Can you see the report? When I run report, okay, I'm getting the data from multiple different objects. See, the first one is all opportunities, open opportunities, and the second column is for all closed opportunities, and the third section is all open cases. Okay, I want to see all the data at together. Let's say, for example, for this account number oil, United Oil and Gas Corporation, I want to see all my open opportunities. These are my all opportunities for this account, and I want to see all my closed opportunities. These are all the opportunities I have closed, and these are all the cases which is created for this United Oil and Gas. Okay. So this is a very good way to see data from multiple objects together in a single one. Okay, this is all about our joint report. So the next question is, can we mass delete reports in Salesforce? Yes, we can mass delete reports in Salesforce. There is an option in data management to delete mass reports. You can simply go ahead and then delete the mass delete reports from the Salesforce. This option was not available before. Okay. Question number 13, what are the different types of object relationships in Salesforce? How can you create them? Okay. Before even explaining this question, this is so important question. If you know the complete Salesforce very well, and if you just don't know this question, there are 90% chances that you will be rejected in the Salesforce interview. Okay. So be very careful. If you have already done your courses, just go ahead and revisit the videos and see how different relationship works. Okay, because this is the heart of Salesforce. If you don't know how to design the schema of Salesforce, then your complete Salesforce application will not work, right? So you should be very much proficient in whether you are an administrator or a developer. You should be very much proficient in creating the relationships. You should know what are the different types of relationship we have in Salesforce and all those things. Okay. So if you have not done the course, then when you're doing the course, please concentrate on this topic. And if you have already done the course, just go and revisit this topic. Okay. So what are the different types of object relationship in Salesforce and how can you create them? So object relationship is used in Salesforce to create a link between two objects, right? I want to create a relationship. Let's say, for example, what is the existing relationship we have in Salesforce? Account and opportunities. So account is a parent and opportunity is a child relationship. Okay. Let's say if I give another example, student and marks. Student will be the parent object and marks will be the child object. I can have many marks for one particular students, right? So it will be always between the two objects. So there are different types of object relationship in Salesforce. We have master detail relationship. We have lookup relationship. See this one, the master detail is also one to many. Okay. One master, one parent and many childs. Lookup is also one master and many childs. And junction is not there actually in Salesforce directly. We don't have any option, but there is an option to create a junction object and we can make many to many relationship. Okay. Many from one record can be associated with many in the other object, and many records from the other object can be associated to many records in the first object. If you want to create such type of relationship, then we can use a junction object and then create the relationship. So to answer the question, we have master detail relationship, we have lookup relationship, we have junction relationship. One more relationship is available, which is not very important. That is the reason even interviewers will not concentrate more, but just for your information, there is one more relationship called hierarchical relationship, which is available in user object only. Okay. That is the reason why it will allow you to create the relationship with the user object only. Okay. Let's say, for example, we have to create a hierarchy, my manager, and my manager is again a user, right? He will be again a user, again his manager, and his manager will always be a person from the user only. That's why hierarchical relationship is available in our user object. Okay. So how can you create them? Relationship can be created while choosing the data type in the child object. They're always a reference to the common field in the master object. Let me show you this quickly. Okay. How do you create? Okay. So when you go to create and create object, and then you already have student master object. Okay. And then you want to create a relationship. See here, custom fields and relationship. Click on new. You will get an option to create lookup relationship and master detail relationship. There is one more relationship called external relationship. This was not available before, but this external relationship we cannot achieve unless we have integration with another system, like that is nothing but Oracle system or SAP system or any other SQL server or whatever it may be. Once we have that, then only we will be able to this one. You don't need not worry about it. Okay. You have to just concentrate on what is lookup relationship and what is master detail relationship. Okay. Next is what happens to the detail record when master record is deleted. Okay. What happens to the child record when parent record is deleted? Okay. Again, it is a follow-up question from our previous question. So what happens in there are two types of relationship I discussed, right? One is master detail and one is lookup relationship. So in master detail, if I delete the parent, automatically child will also be get deleted. Okay. But in lookup relationship, if I delete the parent, then child will not be deleted, because master detail is a tightly coupled and lookup relation is a loosely coupled relationship. That is the reason once master is deleted, child will also be deleted in terms of or in case of master detail relationship. Okay. So that is the answer for my first question. In lookup relationship, even if the parent record is deleted, the child record will not be deleted. So the first one is the cascade delete. Okay. Once you delete, so what if I have more than one child? All the childs will be deleted, not one child or two childs. All the childs of that particular master will be deleted. Let's say, for example, you are a student and you have 5 subject marks as a child. Once you delete a student, then all the 5 child student marks records will also be deleted from the Salesforce. So here is the thing, you have to be very careful which type of objects you should create which relationship. Okay, if you think that if I delete the parent and then child is of no use, that time you have to create the master detail relationship. Okay, another example is employee and payslips, right? If there is no employee, then what is the use of having payslips in the database, right? Similarly, you have to think, okay, which scenario, if I delete parent, then child is there, it will be used for something else. Then in that scenario, you have to use loosely coupled. That is nothing but the lookup relationship. Okay, be careful while creating the relationships. Cool. So now, can you have a roll-up summary field in case of master detail relationship? Again, this is a follow-up question only. So the answer is yes. There is a concept called roll-up summaries. We can make the sum of all the childs. For example, I have marks, 5 marks for the 5 subjects. I can roll up the sum of 5 subjects and show it on the parent record. So that is nothing but a rolling up. So similarly, we have max, means I can show the maximum record from that, or maximum marks from that 5 marks, and I can show the minimum number of that from that 5 marks, and I can also show the count of all those marks which I have in my child record. Okay, so there are 4 things we can do. So to answer the question, yes, we can have a roll-up summary in master detail relationship, but you cannot have roll-up summary with the lookup relationship. Okay, this is very important. Okay, and let us see if I have that question. Okay, we don't have. So now I will ask you one more follow-up question with this. Can we create a roll-up summary with a lookup relationship if I have a lookup relationship? What do you think? You want to use the question window and quickly give me an answer? Whether can we create the roll-up summary if we have a lookup relationship? What do you think? It need not be a right answer. Just wanted to check your understanding. What do you think? You want to try? No? You should try actually. Okay, let me only answer this question. So if you have lookup relationship, can we create a roll-up summary? The answer is yes, no. The first answer is no, as well as yes. No, because there is no out-of-the-box functionality. Salesforce has not given any, out-of-the-box functionality to create the roll-up summary. But yes, we have to take the developer's help. Developer can create a trigger, and then he can mimic the same functionality, but directly roll-up summary functionality cannot be created on lookup relationships. Okay. Next question is explain the term data skew in Salesforce. So what is data skew in Salesforce? It's a little advanced topic. Okay. So what happens is I'll give you first background and then I'll come to the answer for this one. Sometimes what happens, right, in a big environment, like with the big clients, they have millions of data, right? Like as I said, like every account will have some opportunities, or every account may have some contacts. Let's take an example of every account, and then every account will have some contacts, right? So think about it. There may be a situations where we have huge number of records, like huge number of contacts which doesn't have any account. Okay, what we'll do, just we don't want to leave them alone. That's why what we do is in the real time, we'll create a one dummy account and we'll tag all those contacts which doesn't have any parent to one parent, one single parent. Okay, okay, if it is a very small number of contacts, like 100 contacts, 200 contacts, 1,000 contacts is also not a problem. Okay, but problem occurs when we have huge data. Let's say, for example, when we have 10,000 records and more. Okay, when more than 10,000 records and object are owned by one single user, we can call that condition is ownership data skew. Okay, so what happens is when such users perform updates, performance issues will be encountered because of data skewing. Okay, so this happens when a single user or member of a single role own most of the records for a particular object. So we can divide in multiple accounts, or we can change the ownership with multiple users, and then we can avoid this situation. Okay, but yes, until and unless you are working for a very big client who is having huge number of datas, and who is having a lot of data which is not assigned to a parent, or yeah, even if it is not related to relationship, if it is one user is having huge number of data and he is trying to update it, then this problem may occur. Okay, there is nothing but data skew in Salesforce. Not a really important interview question, but yes, good to know question. explain skinny table and what are the consideration for skinny table. Okay, this is also a really good feature in Salesforce. Earlier it was not there, but yes, again this will be a problem when we have huge data. Okay, so see what is a skinny table. So in Salesforce, skinny tables are used to access frequently used fields and to avoid joins. Okay, even when the source tables are modified, skinny tables will be in sync with the source table. Let's say, for example, we have table which is having huge number of fields. Okay, and not necessarily we will be using those fields every time. Okay, but because we are querying on that particular table and we also have huge number of data in that table, there will be many times performance issues. What we can do is we can create a skinny table. Okay, means it's a subset of the same table. Okay, data will be synced in both the tables. So what we can do is we can create a skinny table with couple of fields which we will be using very frequently. Okay, and what is the advantages of that one is it will improve the performance a lot. Okay, so we cannot directly create a skinny table by default in our Salesforce org. You have to contact the Salesforce support. Okay, don't go and search where I can create a skinny table. You have to contact Salesforce support and then request them to create the skinny table for whatever object we want. Okay, so what are the considerations for the skinny table? So these are the couple of considerations for skinny tables. Skinny tables can contain a maximum of 100 columns. See, the main idea is we should have less columns, right? So let's say, for example, I'm giving 200 or 500 columns. Okay, no, we cannot give that. So maximum we can have 100 columns only. And skinny table cannot contain fields from other objects, right? I cannot give the reference cross-reference fields or cross-reference formula fields in a skinny table. It should be the columns from the same table only, for which I am creating the skinny table. Okay. For full sandboxes, skinny tables are copied to your full sandbox organization as of summer 15 2010 releases. So for all the other sandboxes apart from full sandbox, the data will not be automatically copied to the other sandboxes. We have to do it explicitly. Okay, but for full sandbox it is happening since summer 2015 release. Cool, let's go to another question. Which fields are automatically indexed in Salesforce? Okay, this is one other question we have. So indexing is what, what is indexing? Basically it is an old concept only. It is there in Oracle, it is there in SQL Server and all those things. Okay, so for example, see, old indexing is, I'll tell you like this example, best example, like we give page numbers for our book. In our books we have page numbers, right? For example, page number 32, directly we go to the page number 32. What happens over here? The processing will be fast, right? For example, in page number 32 I have a chapter called SOQL or SQL. So if I want to find SQL, then what I will do, I will go to each page by page, page by page, page by page, and on 32 page I will find that SQL chapter. Okay, but what if I have a course content at the beginning and that content says that, okay, SQL topic is on page number 32? What we will do, we will not search page by page, we'll simply go to page number 32. So what happens over here, the process will be very faster, right? So or not all fields in Salesforce can be indexed, right? Only few of the fields in Salesforce can be indexed. That is nothing but ID field, name field, and owner fields will be automatically indexed. We don't have to do anything explicitly. Okay, I'll tell you, what if I create a field and I want to index that, what we have to do. Okay, and lookup or master detail fields are again automatically indexed, and audit dates fields such as system modified date, last modified date, last updated date, last created date, these are all automatically indexed ones. Okay, but what if I have created one field, I want to mark it as index, then we should mark it as external ID. Okay, there will be an option whenever we create a field, there is an option to mark it as a external ID or unique. If I select any of these two things, then automatically that field be indexed automatically. Okay. Okay. Next, move on to how to handle comma with a field while uploading using data loader. This is a very simple one. Okay. For example, if my text is having something called as comma, then how do we handle that? Okay, we have to simply give a double quotes. That's it. Okay, and we have to give double quotes beside this comma, then automatically that will be considered as comma in our data loader. Okay, for which criteria in Salesforce time dependent workflow action cannot be created? Okay, so let me give you a little more background on before even explaining this question. So there is a topic called workflows in Salesforce. So there are two type of workflows, right? One is a time dependent workflow and another is an immediate workflow. Means as soon as I save the record, perform that workflow. And another one is time dependent workflow. After creating the record, maybe after 30 minutes or maybe after 1 hour, if I don't perform something, then do that workflow. Okay. So the question over here is for which criteria in workflows time dependent workflow action cannot be created. Let me show this one because this is really important. Okay, let me go to workflows, workflow rules, click on continue and click on new rule. Okay, let me mark this for account. Okay, I'm not going to create it but just want to show you what is this. So this is what it is all talking about, evaluation criteria. So there are three evaluation criteria over here. One is created by, one is at the time of created, it should workflow should fire. And when the second one is created and every time it is edited. Okay. And third one created and every time it is edited and also meeting the criteria. Okay. Here if it is meet or doesn't meet the criteria, it will run. But here only if it is meeting the criteria, then only it will run. Okay. So what is our question? In which criteria we cannot have time dependent workflows? Okay, see this one. As soon as I click on created, it's okay. But when I click on second, it will give me a node that is nothing but information. You cannot add time dependent workflow action for this option. Okay, so the answer for your question is for the second option, that is created and every time it is edited, we cannot have time dependent workflows. Cool. Okay, let us go back and see the answer. So the time dependent workflow action is created and every time it is edited. Okay, on this one we cannot create the time dependent workflow. So next question is, what are the type of custom settings in Salesforce and what is the advantage of custom settings? Custom setting is also one of the very good feature in Salesforce we have. Okay, so custom settings, what we can do is it's behave like data table only. Okay, but there are a lot of advantages of custom settings. Okay, so we don't have to write a SQL statement to get the data from the custom settings. Okay, and but yes, even we can store the data, but we don't have to write SQL statements. We just have to use some straightforward, I will not say tag, but yeah, functions to directly retrieve the data from those. Okay, typically there are two types of custom settings. One is the list custom setting. This is the majorly used custom settings, and second one is hierarchy custom settings. So if you create hierarchy custom settings, it will also honor the hierarchy, like you and your manager, you should see what are the data and your manager should see which data, and all those things will be honored in this hierarchy custom settings. Okay, let's see what is the list custom settings. It's a type of custom settings that provide a reusable set of static data. Okay, data can be added that can be accessed across your organization irrespective of users or profiles. Okay, in hierarchy custom setting, it is a type of custom settings that uses built-in hierarchical logic for personalizing settings for specific profiles and users. Both are having data, but this will be personalized for respect to the profiles as well as the users. Okay. Advantage of using custom setting is that it allows developers to create custom set of access roles for various users and profiles. So we can have some set of data which can be used across. Let's say, for example, I'll give you a best example. Okay, whenever I see in the code state is equals to AP, then automatically I want to display it as Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so such type of scenario, what I can do is I will give one key value called AP and also write the value as Andhra Pradesh, right? Then we will write KA, then I will write automatically the other column I will write as Karnataka, right? Then MH, then automatically, or MA, I'll use automatically Maharashtra. So this kind of things can be done or saved in our custom settings. That is just an example, but we can do a lot more things based on your requirement. Any type of data can be used, can be stored, and can be used throughout the org. Okay. Next, this is the simplest one, and here you don't have to even worry about it. Okay, how many active assignment rules can you have in a lead or case? So there is a topic called assignment rules. So we can have only one rule active at a time. Even if you try to activate the another rule, automatically the previous rule will be deactivated. Okay, you don't have to explicitly take care of this. Salesforce will automatically take care, but just for the interview sake, you should know that at a time we can have only one active assignment rule. Okay, cool. Let us move on. What are the custom labels in Salesforce? And what are the character limits of custom labels? This is also one of the good feature which we can use in Apex classes and Visualforce pages. Okay. So the main idea, or in the real-time scenario, why do we use custom label is to avoid hard coding. Okay. Even if you write some hard coding, and if you are working for a better company, good company, or good client, they will reject your code in the code review if you hard code anything in the code or a Visualforce page. Okay, so the idea is you should not do the hard coding. Let's say, for example, if city is equals to Mumbai. Okay, I'm writing the Mumbai hard coded in the code itself. You should never do that. Okay, for that you should create a custom label, and in custom label you should write Mumbai, and here in the code you should refer to that custom label name. Okay, so what is the advantage of this one is the main usage of this custom label is also for translations. Okay. So for example, you are using your application for multiple countries where we have different this thing, right? Let's say, for example, I'm using the label called first name, okay, in my Visualforce page. And first name, instead of I am hard coding, I am putting it in our custom labels. Then what it does is, when if we translate it automatically, when it is open in China, you don't have to take care of anything. Automatically that first name will be changed to the Chinese conversion, and it will show that first name as a Chinese language. Okay. Similarly, if we are opening it in Arabic or anything else, and the translation is activated or translation is given for that particular custom label, then automatically, when the person opens the same page from Middle East region, he will be able to see that first name in the Arabic translated label. Okay. So custom labels are custom text values that can be accessed from Apex classes or Visualforce pages. These values can be translated into any language Salesforce supports. Okay. They enable developer to create multilingual applications by automatically presenting information in the user's native language. Okay. One of the reason is to create the translated one. Okay. But the other reason why we use the custom label is not avoid hard coding in the Apex classes or Visualforce pages. Cool. And what are the character limits? You can create up to 5,000 custom labels for your organization, and they can be up to 1,000 characters in length. Okay, we can create as lengthy as 1,000 characters, one custom label. Okay, you don't need to worry. 1,000 characters is a lot of this thing. Next one, what is the difference between roles and profiles? Okay, so this is really important. This question maybe you will get in very first few minutes only in your interview. Okay. Basically, Salesforce interviewer wants to understand that do you have the basic understanding of security systems in Salesforce or not. Okay. Even though I think I have already given the answer for this roles and profiles while explaining some of the other questions. But let me again give you the answer before even I open the answer for this in a PPT. Try to make it very simple. Okay. Profile is for giving you access to the org, right? So you can answer like this. So profile is all about access to the org, like you have the access to this application or not, you have access to these tabs or not, you have the access to these objects or not. Okay. You have this access to the record type or not. That is all defined with the help of our profile. Okay. What is the next thing in Salesforce? I told you it's all about data, right? So role defines the data. Okay, which data you can view. Let's say, for example, I am the sales executive and I have manager on top of me, and my OWD is set to private. Then since I am reporting to my manager can see my data as well as his data. Okay. And CEO can see the data belongs to everyone in the org. Okay. So you can simply answer that profile is all about access to the org, and role is all about access to the data in the org. Okay. So let us now see what we have in the answer. So role hierarchy allows users in the hierarchy with the highest level have access to the records owned by the user. with the lower level of the access. Okay, having a role is not mandatory for the user. This is important. Okay, if you don't give the role, it's okay, but you have to give the profile. Without even giving the profile, you will not be able to create the user itself. Okay, so profile controls the access to which objects, fields, permissions, records that a user has. I think we should remove records. Records is not required over here. That a user has within the org. Having a profile is mandatory for the user. This should be a little bit changed. The profile is mandatory in the Salesforce, but role is not a mandatory thing in Salesforce. Yep, we can update this PPT. We definitely need a profile, but we don't require a role compulsorily. Okay, if we give a role, then only data visibility will be there. If we don't give role, then data visibility will not be there for our managers manager and managers manager until CEO. Cool. Okay, let me move on. What are the examples of non-deterministic force.com formula field? Okay, there are two things in Salesforce. One is deterministic and another is non-deterministic. So earlier, before even having formula fields, formula fields were there, but what is a formula field? Okay, for example, I have a scenario like, I have to calculate the total salary. Okay, and I have multiple components like basic salary and HRA and DA and some TA or whatnot. Okay, and I want to calculate the total salary. Then what I do is I will create the formula field. I'll calculate the sum of all these fields. Okay, so what happens, it will give me the total salary on the fly. Okay, it will not store the data in the database. So now here the question is, what are the examples for non-deterministic force.com formula fields? So we cannot determine this one on the fly, so that is nothing but the lookup field and formula reference span over entities. Let's say for example, I'm getting the formula fields from other objects and dynamic dates using today's and now function. So these are nothing but the non-deterministic force.com formula fields. This is also simple. Okay, before we move forward, do you have any questions? I think it should be a little bit more interactive. Okay, I know you are taking, when you have understood like half of the thing almost we have covered. Just wanted to hear from you guys, like you are able to understand, or what is that? You want me to go a little slow, or shall I continue? You're able to follow it, or you're not able to follow it? Anything? Okay, cool. Let me continue with the question number 26. So why do we need to write test class? Okay, how to identify if a class is a test class? Okay, this is also really important interview question and also important topic, and I would say important feature of Salesforce. Okay, Salesforce does require every code to be written as a test class also. For example, I'm writing a class, I should definitely write a test class for that. Okay, and if I'm writing a trigger, that is also a code, and I should definitely write a test class for that trigger as well. Okay, so basically what is the reason behind this is, we have learned that, right, Salesforce is multi-tenant, is on multi-tenant environment. Okay, and multiple different clients are using that Salesforce from that single, I can say, server. So Salesforce want to make sure that your code is not breaking in the cloud. Okay, so that is the reason Salesforce enforces us. It's not optional, but it is mandatory. You have to compulsory write test class, and the coverage of that test class should be more than 75% for each class. Okay, so until and unless we cover the test classes for more than 75%, you cannot deploy it to the production. Okay, until and unless you have written test classes, you will not be able to move it to the production. Yes, we can move it from one org to another org, but we cannot move from Sandbox to the production. But you should definitely write a test class to move it to the production. So to create a robust and error-free code in Apex, Salesforce requires you to write unit test in Apex code. Okay, unit tests are comprised of test methods and test classes that verify whether a particular piece of code is working or not. Okay, so automatically it will verify whether this particular code is working or not if we simply write the test class. Okay, so how to identify if the class is a test class? On top of that class, we will have this keyword called @istest. This is called annotation. Okay, @istest is one of the annotation. As soon as we write this annotation, then it is nothing but that is a test class. Okay, if the class is annotated with @istest keyword, then it is not test class. Okay, If any method within a class has a keyword, test method, this is a keyword, okay? Don't think that I'm just writing a test method. So test method is also a keyword. If we have this method as a test method, then that is also nothing but a test method in that particular test classes. So test class is basically very important to move our code to production. So what is the minimum test coverage required for a trigger to deploy? Okay. So at least 75% of your Apex code must be covered by unit test, and all those tests must be completely successful. So we should have at least 75% of code coverage for us to move that successfully to our production orgs. That is mandatory. Okay. Moving on. What are the different ways of deployment in Salesforce? I think I've referred this question before. I said we'll discuss this in our future slides. Yes. So these are the multiple different options we have in Salesforce. Let me tell you what are all those. The very first thing is change set. It is given in the Salesforce org only. Okay. You don't have to worry about using any external tool. It is a web-based given inside our Salesforce login. Okay. And next one is Eclipse. Once you download Eclipse and add with force.com IDE, there also you can deploy. Right click on the components which you want to deploy and then select the components and then validate it, and then once the validation is successful, deploy it. Okay. Third one is force.com migration tool, which is Ant or Java based. This is a CUI based tool. You don't see any graphical user interface. You don't see anything, but there are a couple of, we have to open the command prompt and you have to run some commands. Okay. And you have to place the folders in such a structure that it will take the components from those folders and deploy it to our Salesforce org, maybe production or maybe other Sandbox org. This is completely non-GUI based tool, that is Ant or Java based tool. Okay. I would say you use any of these three, but do not use Salesforce packages, okay? Until and unless you are into a product development company, okay? Don't go with the Salesforce packages. Salesforce packages are not to deploy if you are not in a product development company. If you are a product development company, yes, for example, you have developed an HR package, okay? And then you have done some changes on top of it, then create a package, update a package, so it will be creating a versions, like earlier version is version 1, then automatically it will create a version 2, and then it will be published for the app exchange to be used or downloaded by other clients. Okay. Until unless you are in a product development company and you are told to use these packages, do not use. In this environment, in our service based projects environment, this is absolutely not a good practice to use Salesforce packages. Okay. Any question over here? Cool. Let us move on then. Okay. What is an external ID in Salesforce? Which all fields or data types can be used as external IDs? Okay. Let me tell you a little more background on external IDs. Okay. Let's say, for example, external IDs can be used for multiple things. I think one use case we have seen just now. Okay, sometime back we have used, if you want to make the field indexed automatically, then we can mark it as an external ID. Okay, but the main reason why we use external ID is in an integration environment. Let's say, for example, I'm integrating our Salesforce with Oracle database, or maybe I'm integrating with SAP database. And let's say, for example, an employee table, which is already there in Oracle, and from there it is dumping the data into Salesforce. In Oracle, employee ID is a unique one, okay? And I want to consider that same employee ID as a unique over here in Salesforce also. So what I will do while creating the fields in the Salesforce, I will mark it as external ID, so that this employee ID will also be treated as unique over here in our Salesforce also. Okay. So an external ID is a custom field that has an external ID attribute, meaning that it contains unique records, identifiers from a system outside of Salesforce. Okay, it may be an Oracle, it may be a SAP, or it may be a skill server, MyDB database, or MyDB, whatever it may be. Okay, so mainly used while importing the data. Using data loader, I'm importing the data from Oracle to Salesforce, then this can be considered as a unique field, and based on that we can do the update, inserts, and deletes as well. Okay. So only custom fields can be marked as external IDs. We cannot mark standard fields as external IDs. Okay. Those fields are even though in custom fields we cannot mark to all, we can mark the external ID only to text and numbers, emails and auto numbers. That's it. Apart from this, we cannot make external ID to anyone else. Okay, this is also really important. Moving on, how many callouts to external service can be made in a single Apex transaction? Okay, so what do you mean by callouts? Okay, before even explaining you this thing, I'll give you a little more background on this one. We can do the integrations in Salesforce, as I said just before. Okay, we can consume the web services given by our external system, that is Oracle, or else we can also expose our web services and we can give it to the Oracle system or SAP system. They can also consume. Okay, so the process of calling external systems web services is nothing but a call out. Okay, so here the question is, how many callouts to an external service can be made in a single Apex transaction? Okay, so the answer is a single Apex transaction we can make maximum of 100 callouts. This was not there before. I think earlier it was 20 callouts or 10 callouts. Salesforce has increased this limit, and now we have 100 callouts to an HTTP request or an API call. Okay, callout is nothing but to calling an external web service using our Apex code. Cool. 31. How can you expose an Apex class as a REST web services in a Salesforce? Simply, we have to create you have to write a code, small code, and then we have to make sure that couple of things are in place, and then only it will act as a web services. I think the code is given over here, not given, or maybe next slide. So use global classes as a web services callback method. So instead of public private, we have to give global over here. Okay, once you give a global, then this can be used as a web service class. Invoking a custom Apex REST web service method always use system context. Consequently, the current user's credentials are not used, and any users who has access to these methods can use their full power regardless of permissions, field level security or sharing rules. Developer who exposes methods using the Apex REST annotation should therefore take care that they are not inadvertently exposing any sensitive data. Okay, so we have to be very careful while writing the code in the method. Okay, do not expose all unnecessary let's say for example, I'm exposing the data, some of the columns which needs to be exposed to the external system. Okay, for example, it's an employee data. I just have to expose employee first name, employee last name, employee email ID and phone number. Okay, so make sure that you do not unnecessarily write another fields in that particular select query. Okay, if you by mistake also, if you have written salary, then that your salary will be exposed to the external system. Okay, our intention is only to expose require this limited 4 fields, but sometimes by mistake we may add couple of more fields also that will lead to the exposure of those fields also. You have to be very very careful while writing the method that only required set of data or required set of columns should be exposed from those web services classes. Okay, so this is the continuation of the same one. So here let me explain you using this thing highlighter. So global is the one which is very much required. Okay, any data type which I want to expose, again it should also have keyword web services. See here also web services, and this is another class inside a class that is nothing but a global. Okay, and these are all the again web services data types. Okay, starting with all web services: string name, integer, plan number, date, planning period, and ID, plan ID. Okay, and this is the main method called create account plan. Okay, so here also we have to give web service. Okay, and then internally here inside this one we should write our code, whatever we want to write. Okay, so here you have to be very careful. Do not write such a code that which should not be given access from the external system. Okay, here I'm creating update. Okay, don't give something, let's say for example here I'm giving an access to create an employee. Don't give access for the employee to create a salary. Okay, just give the access for the relevant fields only. Okay, so here we have to be really careful. This is the syntax of Salesforce web service, REST web service. Okay, next 32 is what is the difference between standard controller and a custom controller? This is also very important. Okay, what do you mean by controller in the first place? Okay, actually Salesforce works in a MVC pattern. M is nothing but the model. Model is in Salesforce is always a database, and view is nothing but the page which you are seeing. Okay, the UI I would say, and the controller is nothing but the classes or the logic which you will be writing. Okay, so now the question is, what is the difference between standard controller, means standard logic which is written by Salesforce, and a custom controller or custom class which is written by us. Okay, custom class and standard class. So see the difference. So standard controller in Apex inherits all the standard objects properties. So if you have already done this Salesforce admin course, I'm sure you know, right? As soon as we create an object, okay, and after that, as soon as we create the fields, we don't have to create a UI, okay? Even I don't have to create any button, right? Automatically, Salesforce creates us a button called save, edit, okay, and cancel and delete, right? These 4 or 5 buttons are automatically be created. That is nothing but Salesforce has automatically created a controller, okay, for that object, whether it will be a standard object or a custom object. For both of those objects we will have standard controllers. Okay, so all those features I can directly use, just use a method called save. Automatically it will use the code written by Salesforce, which we cannot see, but we can use that. Okay, it contains the same functionality and logic that are used for the standard Salesforce pages. Okay, if you want to utilize the same thing, we can do that, but our requirement is in such a way that I have to write the completely customized logic. Maybe before saving into so and so object, maybe accounts object, I have to do a lot more processing and do, you know, lot of things and then save into the database. Then obviously we can always go with the custom controller. Okay, custom controller is an Apex class which we will be writing that implements all the logic for a page without leveraging. This is important. Okay, here we will not have any effect of our standard controllers, right, without leveraging a standard controller. Okay, custom controllers are associated with Visualforce pages through the controller attribute. There is an attribute called controller. We can use that attribute and write the name of the class there, okay, with which automatically custom controller can be used. Cool. Let us move on and see what else we have. How can we implement pagination in Visualforce page? I think there is something ready-made already given in Salesforce. We don't have to worry about it. Just use that methods and Salesforce have done a lot of good job for you. Okay. Pagination, you know, right? Let's say, for example, I have 1,000 employees in my database and I want to display them. Okay. Not necessarily all the 1,000 employees should be displayed in a single page, right? And even it doesn't looks very good, right? Maximum to maximum 10 or maximum to maximum 20 should be displayed on a single page. Then what we can do to view the other records, we can simply click next, 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 or previous, 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 and then navigate between those 1,000 records using next and previous, right? So to implement that, Salesforce has given us something called as, you know, some ready-made methods with which we can give the navigation functionality. Okay, let me highlight what are the important things over here. So by default, a list of controller returns 20 records on the page. To control the number of records displayed on each page, use a controller extension to set the page size. Okay, so now what we did is we have written a page, okay, and standard controller record set where we have to use for that, and we will use account as name of the object. It can be lead, it can be your custom object as well. Okay, so we have used the first one, page block, okay, to show the block of our page, and then we have used form also. Form tag is used if you are using buttons and if you're using the text fields which will take the input value. Maybe in this case we will be using some command button. That is the reason we have form tag also used. Okay, then we were using page block section tag. Okay, this is important. The next tag, Apex data list. Okay, variable is equals to a, value is equals to accounts, type is equals to 1, and then closing of that Apex data list. So we are creating a data list. With the help of this data list, what is happening is we will be showing the different records on our page. Okay, now we are using panel grid with the 2 columns, and in command button we are using action called previous. I told you, right, previous and next. With the help of this previous and next, we will be maintaining the number of records or moving to and from the records in that Visualforce page. Okay, so basically you don't have to explicitly write a lot of code to achieve that functionality. Salesforce has already given that to us. Okay, 34, how can you call a controller method from JavaScript? Okay, this is also one of the important thing which we will be using very frequently in Salesforce. There are two type of questions for this one. Either an interviewer can ask you, how can you call a control method using JavaScript? Or he will ask you, what is action function? Okay. You can use action function from JavaScript for calling controller method. That is an Apex function. To call an Apex function directly using the JavaScript, we have to use action function. So you can, either way, if he asks, you can reply that call the JavaScript, we have to use action function. If he asks you what is action function, you have to reply that okay, action function is used to call the Apex methods from the Apex classes. Okay, this is a very simple, you don't have to worry about anything. This is all the code we have for the page. Okay, and here this is the function I've written, JavaScript JS method call from any action method, and here in the action I am calling this controller method name over here. I think he has given controller method name, but actually it has to give the controller method name over here. Okay, and simply it will see name is equals to call JS, then it will call this JS and then call the method, whatever the method you are trying to call it from the Salesforce Apex controller. Okay, cool. 35, how to get the user ID of all the current logged in user using Apex code. Actually, Salesforce has also provided a couple of global variables. We're using those variables, we can find out a couple of things. Okay, so one of the thing is user ID of the current logged in person. So you can simply say user info.get user ID. You can also say that user info.get first name. You can also say user info.get last name. Whatever the things you want to call, you can call with the help of this global function user global info.get user ID. Okay, what next? So moving on to 36, how many records can a select query return? Okay, how many records can a SOSL query return? This is a different, here is an SOQL SOQL, and for the second one SOSL. So this is again referring to our second or third question in our slide, that what are the governor limits, right? We have not discussed what are all the governor limits. We have just discussed what is the governor limits, right? Why Salesforce has introduced governor limits, that, but we have not discussed there what are the governor limits. So these two questions again are the governor limits. Salesforce wants to implement that, or Salesforce wants to govern that. Okay, so that is number of records we can get it in the SQL query. So here is the answer. You can get total number of records retrieved is 50,000. Okay, and total number of records retrieved by database.get query locator is 10,000. And total number of records retrieved by SOSL. SOSL is nothing but the search language. Okay, by 2000. I'll show you one quick thing. Okay, and if you want, you can find out all the rest of the governor limits. Just open developer console and write any code in anonymous block. Any code means any code. So I will simply write system.debug hello world. Okay, so the intention is not to show you the hello world, but the intention is to show you what are all the governor limits Salesforce is enforcing us to take care of. Okay, so once you run this one and you get the log, just scroll down the log. Okay, and here you will get all the governor limits. I'll highlight it over here. These are all the governor limits. Number of SOQL queries and number of records are both are different. Okay, don't get confused in this one. So 50,000. Okay, number of DML statements 150, number of DML rows 10,000, number of CPU limits 10,000 milliseconds, heap size is 6 MB, number of callouts 100, it was not 100 before, number of email invocation 10, number of feature calls are 50, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are the important governor limits, you have to worry about it. Okay, you can just do what steps I did and then you can find out all of them. Okay, let me go back. So next is 37. What is an attribute tag? Okay, so this question can be two things. What are the attributes? Attributes will be available for each tag, right? Let's say for example, page will have couple of attributes. Page block section is another tag which will have another attributes. Okay, so but this is a specially attribute tag. This will be available only for one tag called component tag. For that component, we will be having some attribute tag. Okay, and what is the syntax for including them? This is the simplest one. For example, if I'm creating a component in Salesforce, and then we have to mandatorily use this one. This is the component. Okay, Apex component. If you have seen before Apex page, right? but this is Apex component, and this is the attribute name, my attribute. Okay, and there should be an attribute tag. Attribute name is equals to my value, and here also attribute name is equals to border, description is equals to this, and time is equals to string, and required is equals to true. Okay, so a definition of an attribute and a custom component. The attribute tag can only be a child of a component tag. Okay, this attribute can only be a child of the component tag, means it should come only inside the component. Okay, note that you cannot define attribute with names like id or rendered. Okay, we cannot use, here I use attribute name, but I cannot use attribute id, okay, or attribute re-rendered. These attributes are automatically created for all custom components definition, so nothing very important here. This will be used for our component tag only, that's it. And question number 38, what are the three types of bindings used in Visualforce? What does each refers to? There are three bindings, okay, I believe. First one is the data binding, which refers to the data set in the controller. Second one is the action binding, like I want to call the methods, right, which refers to the action methods in the controller. And third one, the component binding. You just saw one component, right? I can even create a component. What do you mean by component? Okay, I can create a component of a chart, okay, like let's say for example dashboards chart, okay, or even I can create a component wherein we have a combination of multiple different user ID. Or else I'll give you a best example. I can prepare a component which is having a username and a text box and password and a text box and submit button and cancel button. Okay, together with all these different tags, I can prepare a component and I can ready-madely use that component wherever I want. Instead of, if I think that okay, something which can be used very frequently, and I can make a component out of it and then I can use in my any page. Okay, so these are the three different types of bindings. Very frequently used are data bindings and action bindings. Without these two, there won't be any Visualforce page 90% of times. Okay, unless you are not calling any data, unless you are not calling any method from the controller. Okay. 39th, what are the different types of collections in Apex, and what are maps in Apex? This is also a very important question in Salesforce. Okay, so if you're from .NET or Java background, you definitely know what is a collection. Okay, and there are three different types of collection basically in Salesforce. That is nothing but list, sets, and maps. Okay, lists, sets, or maps are very frequently used collections in Salesforce. If you open any Salesforce Apex class, right, or Salesforce class, or maybe Salesforce trigger, open it. Okay, if you have from your friends, or maybe you have downloaded something from internet and see, you won't find any Apex class without this collections. Okay, so collections are types of variables which can store multiple number of records. Okay, and it's an advanced version of array, I can say, right? What is the definition of array? Array is a collection of similar data types, right? Same here also. These collections are also, collection of the similar data types. I can write list of integer and store all integer values, and I can say list of or set of integer. I can store all integer values, and I can say list of string. I can store, strings like names of all the people. Similarly, we have something called as map. Map is little different than list and set. List and set are both same, okay, with some difference. Okay, for example, set will have only unique values, whereas your list will have multiple values also. Okay, and it is unordered, and this is ordered. Okay, but map is little different. What is the difference between them? So the syntax of map is itself different. I can store key and value in my map. Okay, for example, map of string comma string country underscore city. This is the variable name is equals to new map string comma string. I can store country and city. Okay, let's say for example I have written USA, then I can have multiple cities of USA, right? Or city and country. New York, then country will be USA. New Jersey city country will be USA. Mumbai city and country will be India. So you can store country and city values over here. Okay, this is really useful and important as well. Cool. Let us move on to our question number 40. How can you embed a visual flow in a Visualforce page? This is simple, very. We have the navigation flow given over here. Okay. You can follow this navigation and then you can embed it into a Visualforce page. First, you have to create a flow and then you have to embed it in Visualforce page. Very simple. First, what you have to do, find the flow unique name. First, you have to check what is the name of the flow and then go to setup and flows in quick find box. Then select the flow, click the name of the flow, copy that unique name. Okay. First one is to identify the name of the flow. Second, go to the setup again and enter the Visualforce page in a quick find box and select the Visualforce page wherever you want to embed and define the new Visualforce page or open an existing Visualforce page, okay, depending on your requirement. Add the flow interview. This is the tag for adding the flow, okay. Component anywhere between the Apex pages. It can be anywhere. So the example is Apex page. Apex, the closing should come at the bottom and opening should go up, okay. This is the other way. So here we have given flow name is equals to flow unique name. Here you have to write the unique name and simply save the Visualforce page and restrict which users can access the Visualforce page. Okay. It's not required also if you are just testing it. Yeah, and maybe in real time we can restrict that using the profiles. And then we can say that click security next to the Visualforce page and move all the appropriate profiles from available profiles to enabled profiles by using the add and remove button and then click on save. Okay. Add the Visualforce page to your force.com app by using the custom button link or Visualforce tab. Okay. You can use a tab or whatnot to show the flow on that Visualforce pages. So very simple. These are all the steps. Just you have to follow the step and then your flow will be displayed on the Visualforce page. Okay. Okay. Question number 41. What is the use of @ annotation? This is really important and very good feature in Salesforce programming. Okay. So normally, just to give you background over here, see what happens. I've written a class CLASS. Okay. Open the bracket and then close the bracket. Okay. And now what I did, a method called method1. Okay. Open the bracket, close the bracket, and here open the bracket for this. Write the code over here and close the bracket. Okay. For example, this method name is called save method. Save method. Okay. So as soon as I call this from our Visualforce page, okay, I'm calling save method. Immediately this method will run. Okay. This will not wait for anyone. Okay. Or anything, it will not wait. So this is called as synchronous process. It means immediately you are clicking and this is running. That is nothing but the synchronous process. Okay. So means to say that as soon as I click on the button, that method should run. Okay. But there are a couple of scenarios wherein I have to perform some actions. Maybe it will take huge amount of time and I don't want to wait for that and I want to proceed further. So that time I can use asynchronous method. Okay. To call asynchronous method, we have to use the keyword called @future. Okay. So let us see what we have in our answer based on what we have discussed. Okay. Future methods or feature annotations are used to identify and execute methods asynchronously. Okay. What asynchronous method does, right? Whenever it sees it is having some free bandwidth, means the org is having some free bandwidth, that time it will run. Okay. We cannot guarantee that that asynchronous method will run to now, or maybe it will run after half an hour, or it will run after 1 day, or it will be run after 2 days. No, we cannot guarantee anything on asynchronous method. Okay. So asynchronous method will see if there are nothing in the queue, then it will run immediately. If it is something is there in the queue or some jobs are there in the queue which is already running, then it will wait for those jobs to be completed before it runs asynchronous method. Okay. So if the method is annotated with @feature, it will be executed when Salesforce has available resources. That is what I meant to say just before. Example, use it while making asynchronous web services call out to an external service. Most of the time, I would not say majority, but like 70 to 80% of the time, we will use this for calling out our external system. Okay. And without the annotation, the web service callouts is made from the same thread that is executing the Apex code, and no additional processing can occur until the callout is complete. Okay. So why do we do that? If we cannot move forward until and unless that particular method is finished, if we call synchronously. Okay, that is the reason we call it asynchronous. Let it run on its own time and then we will move forward. Okay, so if you have that scenario, then you can definitely use @feature method. Cool. Okay, let us move on to question number 42. What are the different methods of batch Apex? There is one more good feature of Salesforce. All these synchronous method, right? Feature method and this batch Apex and our components and all those things comes under advanced development. It's not even our regular development, but it's all comes under advanced development. So one of the other feature in advanced development is batch Apex class. Okay, let me give you a brief background of what is batch Apex. Right, we have a governor limit that we cannot process so and so number of records at a time. We cannot retrieve 50,000, more than 50,000 records, and we cannot show it on the Visualforce page, right? And even if we show 50 records also in a Visualforce page, my Visualforce page looks weird, right? Forget about 50,000. We'll never be showing 50,000 records at a time in our Visualforce page. Even with the navigation also, we are not going to show. Okay, we'll even provide search functionality or something to search particular records and display it on the page. Okay, but there are situations where we have to process bulk records, like millions of records. Okay, for example, my division name earlier was information technology. I want to change my division name to IT. Okay, and think about it, I am having millions of record. Okay, so what I can do is I can simply write a job class. Okay, because my normal class, if I write it won't retrieve more than 50,000 records. I have to manage, I have to take care every time. I have to see if I have to pick 50,000 and then proceed it, right? So we don't have to do it. Salesforce has automatically provided us something called as batch Apex. It does all those things for us automatically. We don't have to threading. Do you know the threading concept? Okay, we don't have to thread it. Automatically Salesforce will pick the values which it can process and then proceed it, and then save it into the database one by one with the help of batches. Okay, so that is nothing but the batch class. So batch class is having a particular syntax. We cannot write this class as we want. Okay, we have to follow certain syntax. So what is the certain syntax is? Salesforce has mandated that it has to be have three methods compulsorily. What are those three methods? These are the three methods. Okay, so first we have to implement this database.batchable. Okay, and this is the interface, and we have to use start method. In the start method, we have to provide from which object you have to get the data. Okay, and execute method, you have to tell this execute method or write a code and say that what all you have to do that data. In my example, from changing from IT to information technology or whatever. Okay, and in the third method, we can give finish. Like once this is processing is finished, we can intimate to the administrator, or we can send an email, or maybe we can do whatever finish things we have to do. We can do that. So these three methods are compulsory if we were doing using the batch Apex. Okay, understood. Now there will be another follow-up questions comes in sometimes. If you answer this correctly, they will ask you, let's say, boss, I don't want to intimate to anyone. Okay, I just want to start the method and then execute the methods, and that's it. Okay, if I don't have to send an email, if I don't have to intimate to somebody, then can I remove this last method called finish method? Okay, so the answer to this is no. You have to keep it blank, but you have to keep it in the class, because this is an interface and we have to compulsory inherit this three methods: start method, execute method, and finish method. If the interviewer is trying to confuse you, you can strongly say that no, all these three methods are compulsory, whatever be the circumstances or whatever be the scenario. Okay, let's move on. What is a Visualforce component? We have just seen this one, and I think I have already explained to you as well. So a Visualforce component is either a predefined standard from component library or custom components that determines the user interface behavior. Okay, as I said, right, I want to create a component. We'll have two text boxes, two labels, and two buttons, that is user ID and password and submit and cancel button. I can simply use Visualforce component, I can build it. Okay, and similarly any other component if you want to build, you can build. You want to build a nice grid, okay, and you want to use it across the pages with all the navigations, right? We just created one page with navigations. You don't want to repeat that code every time. So okay, simply you can put that code in a component and create a component and use that component anywhere you want to use that navigation grid kind of things. Okay, what is a trigger.new? This is a really important and a good question. For this question to answer, you should have strong knowledge in triggers. Okay, I have told you one place. If you were not able to answer that, you will be failed, and this is the second place. Okay, triggers. If you are not able to answer any question in trigger, then there is 90% of chances that you will be rejected in the interview. This is also one of the very important topic. Okay, so please, if you have already done the course, like development course, just go ahead and review one more time all the topics of triggers as well. Classes and all, you will be learning on the flow. Okay, there is nothing specifically needs to be worried when you're writing a class, because class contains only two things. Okay, if you want to take it simpler, just go ahead and open any class in the world. You will find only two things. One is the variables like data types, and second is methods. You will never ever find anything apart from this variables and methods. Okay, what you have to do is logic you have to write, right? Logic will always comes with the requirement. Okay, and logic, you will build the logic as and when you start doing the development. Okay, but in terms of triggers, there is a behavior, particular behavior, how trigger.new behaves. Okay, how trigger.old behaves, what trigger.new does, what trigger.old does. Okay, you should be, and there are a lot of events also, before event, after events. Okay, there are many things in triggers. Okay, so you should know when you should use before event, right, and when you should know after events. Okay, all these things needs to be considered. That is the reason you should be really careful, and you have to concentrate a little more on triggers part rather than apex classes. Even if you go ahead and give an interview, you will realize that you will have very less questions in even classes and Visualforce pages than triggers. Okay, triggers is the topic where you will get most of the interview questions. Cool. So what is a trigger.new? Trigger.new, actually it is a context variable which can be used only in trigger. Okay, so this is one of the variable. So it returns the list of new data. So returns a list of new version of the SObject record. Okay, note that SObject list is only available in the insert and update triggers. Okay, we have insert triggers, update triggers, delete triggers, and undelete triggers. So this is available only on insert and update, right? And the records can only be modified in before event. It can be modified in only before event, but it cannot be modified in the after event if it is a trigger.new. Okay, so this is nothing but a context variable. Similar to trigger.new, we have trigger.old. Okay, let me explain you what is trigger.new. Okay, let's say for example you have opened a page. Okay, maybe lead page or account page or a student page. Take a simple example. You are entering a new student name. Okay, so what is the new student name? You will enter the first name, you will enter the last name, you will enter his class, and you will select his courses, and you will enter the fees, or you will enter the email ID, or you will enter the phone number, whatnot, and then click on save. As soon as you click on save, right, whatever the data which you have entered just now, which is still not saved in the database, okay, if you catch that in the trigger, that is nothing but the new values. Okay, now take another scenario. You have saved this record and this data is already there in the database. Okay, now you want to update his class or his semester or maybe his phone number, right? You want to change his phone number and email ID. Now you have opened that same record and you have clicked on edit, and you are doing some changes on top of that record, whatever is there in the database. So now you have changed from abc@gmail.com to xyz@gmail.com. Okay, and from so and so number to so and so other phone number. So now whatever is already saved in the database for that particular record is referred as trigger.old. Okay, and whatever the changed thing which we are going to store it in the database now is going to be the trigger.new. Understood? So now let's read one more time. So trigger.old returns a list of old version of the SObject records. Okay. Note that this SObject list is only available in the update and delete triggers. Think about it. It cannot be available in insert because insert is the new record I am inserting. So that time trigger.old will not be available. That time trigger.old will be null. Even though if you try to find the what is there in trigger.new or trigger.old, you will find it null. Okay. Understood? This is important. Okay, so let us move on. Question number 45. What all data types can a set store? Okay, don't can get confused with this set store. Set store is nothing. There is no store in this one. Set is the collection which we have discussed just before. So what are the variables the set can take? I told you, right? Set integer, set string, and set whatnot. So what are all set can take? That is what is the question over here. Okay, you can get a question like, what are all the data types a list can store? Okay, so the answer is here. It can take primitive data types, means all the integers, strings, okay, date, time, whatnot. What are the simple data types? All those data types are nothing but primitive data types. Okay, and it can also take collections like set of, again a set can be stored over here. Okay, in the set we can go up to 5 levels. Set of integer. Okay, we can go until 5 levels. So collection can also be stored in the set. SObject, obviously set of account, means it will store my SObject. Or I can say set of employee underscore underscore C, means to say that I can store the SObject of that set. And you can also store user defined types. Okay, or I can also store built-in Apex data types. Almost all the data types can be stored in a set. What is an SObject type? It's simple. It's, SObject is nothing but a table, Salesforce table. Okay, so here I'll give you a little bit more detail or background on this, why Salesforce has introduced SObject also as one of the data type. There is a reason over here. Okay, if any one of you are coming from .NET or Java background, to store the data into the database from front end, that is Java or .NET, if you want to store it in Oracle SQL Server, what you will do first, you will establish a connection, right? Establish a connection and say that, okay, I want to connect to this so and so server, and under that server I want to connect so and so database, right? And then we have to access so and so fields. You have to give the complete information of what is the database you're connecting. But here Salesforce is very tightly coupled with the database as well. You don't have to explicitly tell to Salesforce that store this data in so and so server, because Salesforce know in which server it has to store it. Okay, so that is the reason Salesforce has introduced this SObject data type. .debug I means it will show me the value of string string s is equals to hello, right? And system.debug, I'm coming to the point which you are waiting for. Before that, I want to all object as SObject data types. For example, count ACC new account. Okay, and you name means automatically it will refer to its name is equals to interview. I'm just giving account name as interview question just for industry is equals to anything banking. Okay, so now insert a simply. Okay, see, this is the only code which is required for me to execute, then it will store this data into the database. Now if you're coming in from say any other background like .NET or Java, or I will also tell you that there are a lot of things you have to take care. You have to first provide the connection string. You have to tell him that which database it needs to store, and you have to also tell about the database name. First we have which server name and then which database name, and you have to provide the field details also. Here nothing, just you declare it as a variable like SObject variable, and this is nothing but an SObject variable for account. Okay, and a dot means automatically will get all the name of the fields, and simply insert and execute it automatically. This gets stored into the database. See the result, go to accounts, and you have seen this interview question is one field I have created with rating is equals to hot and industry is equals to banking, right? So I hope you have got the background of what SObject type is. So now let us read and find out what else it is talking about. An SObject is any object that can be stored in force.com platform database. I have used account. You can use lead, you can use student underscore underscore C, you can use employee underscore underscore C, you can use whatnot. Okay. Apex allows the use of generic SObject abstract type to represent any object. We can even use generic SObject without, if you don't want to simply give the name of the object. Okay, I can, instead of account A, I can simply use SObject A is equals to new SObject. Okay, and then for example, vehicle is generic type, and car, motorbike, all are concrete types of vehicle. Okay, and car and motorbike are concrete type of vehicles. So in SFDC, SObject is a generic, and account, opportunity, custom object underscore underscore C are its concrete types. Okay, you can use either way. Okay, either you can use directly SObject or directly the name of the objects. Okay, so if there is a requirement to use a generic one, then only use. Otherwise, we know that I want to store these two values in account only, then there is no need to use SObject as a generic object name. Simply use that account, opportunity, and custom objects. Cool. Understood? Okay, let us move on. We're almost close to finish this session. So question number 47. What is the difference between SOQL and SOSL? SOQL is nothing but it is very much similar to SQL. SQL full form from Oracle is structured query language. Okay, whereas SOQL stands for Salesforce Object Query Language. Okay, so both are almost same. And SOSL is a Salesforce Object Search Language. Okay, so I will give you an example of search language before even I explain to you. Search language is nothing but you can search the data from any table. See, you have a global search in Salesforce. That is also an example of SOSL. Let me search test. Okay, what it does is it will go and find out test from all the objects in the Salesforce. All the objects means all the tables. Okay, let us see. It has found the test in student master table. It has found the test in lead table. It has found the test in account table, opportunities table, cases table, so on and so forth. Okay, that is the functionality of SOSL. SQL is normal. We will write a query and then we'll get a data from the database. Now see the difference. Only one object can be searched at a time. In SOSL, many objects can be searched at a time. Okay, for you it is showing question number 46. I'm on question number 47 right now. Can you see that? Okay, so let me highlight it over here. Can you see the question number 47? So second question is, can query any type of field? Can query only email, text, or phone numbers? Okay, we cannot query on every only unique kind of things we can find out. Okay, and can be used in classes and triggers. We can use SOQL in classes and triggers. Can be used in classes only but cannot be used in triggers. Okay, and DML operation can be performed on query results, but here DML operation cannot be performed on the search results. Whatever the search we have done for this SOSL, this is just for the display purpose. We cannot take it and we cannot do the DML operations on the results of SOSL results. Okay, it returns the records, it returns the fields and also the records. Okay, so that is the difference between SOSL and SOQL. SOSL is really good feature in Salesforce. Okay, let us move on to question number 48. What is an Apex transaction? This is simple. This is if you're coming in from any other background of programming then or a database, then it's same in Salesforce as well. And what are the different exceptions in Apex? This is again another different question, but let us see. Okay. So an Apex transaction represents a set of operations that are executed as a single unit. Okay. I'll give you one example. Let's say, for example, take about the shopping cart. Okay, shopping cart scenario. What happens once I take something into my cart, okay, and I'm trying to purchase it, at the back end, what it will reduce one quantity from the master data, right? For example, I am having 10 laptops. Okay, let's take Flipkart. Flipkart is having 10 laptops and a user is purchasing one laptop out of it. So what we have to do, as soon as you purchase one laptop, we have to reduce that laptop from the storage object, okay, where we say that, okay, these many quantities are available. And also we have to add one laptop into the cart. Okay, so this we have to do the updates on two objects. One is the object where we are storing the inventory, like inventory object. Another object is my cart object. So now let's say, for example, due to some reason, I have not able to successfully complete my order. Okay, because maybe my card is not working properly. Okay, my card is not having sufficient balance. So what happens? We have to roll back the transaction, not just the transaction which is there in the cart. Also we have to roll back the quantity which is we have reduced from the inventory, right? So that is nothing but a transaction. So an Apex transaction represents a set of operations that are executed for a single unit, right? So all DML operations in the transaction either complete successfully, or if an error occurs, the entire transaction should be rolled back. Okay, we cannot do the partial transactions. So that is the reason we use transaction concept to complete all the transaction. If it is successful, then we'll commit. If it is not successful, we will roll back. Okay. So another question we have in this number 48 slide, what are the different exceptions in Salesforce? So we can have multiple different exceptions, like we can have, null pointer exceptions, we can have DML exceptions, we can have many other exceptions. The similar exceptions are asynchronous exception if you use our future method, right? This exception can occur if there is anything wrong. Callout exception when we go for our callouts, like integration, DML exception, email exception, and external object exception. Okay, there are multiple different types of exception. You can refer this link and get an idea of what are the different exceptions we have in Salesforce. Okay, all these exception types can be used in our try catch block. Okay, let's move on and see what is there in our number 49. So what is the difference between public and global classes in Apex? This is really important because interview will try to confuse you on in this question. Okay, for example, especially if you are coming in from Java background, then public is not the same as what you have public in Java or C#. Okay, public in Salesforce is little different than Java and .NET. Public in Java and Salesforce is equals to global in Salesforce. Okay, so Salesforce, let us go ahead and see this one. See, global class is accessible across the Salesforce instance irrespective of the namespace. Namespace is nothing but namespace is used to differentiate multiple apps. If I create a package, like I have created an HR application and I have created a package, okay, I have given a namespace called HR, okay, and similarly I have created an accounting package and I have created a package, and while creating the package I've given the namespace called as accounting. Okay, so if I have declared public inside my HR application, then that public variable cannot be able to access in my account application. Okay, so even though that is public, but that is public only for my HR application. So for example, if I have to have a variable which should be accessed across my Salesforce org, irrespective of my namespace or irrespective of my application package, then I have to declare that variable as a global class, okay, or global variable. Okay, see here one more time. Global class is accessible across the Salesforce instance irrespective of the namespace. Okay, and whereas public class are accessible only in the corresponding namespace. Let's say, for example, I have declared for HR, then this will be applicable only under the HR namespace, not outside the HR namespace. Okay, cool. Let us move on to our last and final question, and then we'll see if you have any other question if you want to ask, then we'll take it and then we'll wrap up the session. So what are the getter methods and setter methods? This is very easy. Getter method is used to get the data, okay, from the variable, and setter method is used to set the data. Okay, see, get method is used to pass the value from controller to the Visualforce page. Getter method, okay. With the help of getter method, we can simply pass the value from the controller to Salesforce, and set methods is used to set the value back to the controller from the Visualforce page. There is one important thing I will tell you. We have a governor limits of 6 MB, right? We cannot have the page heap size of the page of 6 MB. So what happens is, generally people, irrespective of whether variable is used in Visualforce page or not, they simply have habit of declaring all the variables in the class as getter and setter. Okay, simply they want to declare a variable, just simply go ahead and they'll do getter and setter. They don't know that these variables are not used in, or they will not concentrate, like these variables are not used in Visualforce page, then there is no need to write my getter. See, sometimes I have to do local logic, okay, in the controller, okay, and the final values only I want to pass it to my Visualforce page. So that time, local variables which I want to use it only in the class, I don't need to have a getter and setter, right? So don't simply give getter and setter to every variable you are declaring in the class, okay? Only to the variables which needs to be accessed from the Visualforce page, just give that. Otherwise, what happens is, one or the other day you will hit the governor limit of heap size. Okay, if it is more than 6 MB, then you will hit. So one of the options what you can do is, if you are hitting that governor limits of 6 MB heap size, you can simply come and first see what are the variables unnecessarily you are giving getter and setter, which is not used in the Visualforce page. Okay, so to give you a one-line answer, getter and setter methods is used to access the data to and from the controller to Visualforce page and display it on the Visualforce page. Okay, we'll wrap up our session over here. Thanks everyone.